Hey guys, Natalie Forster here, integrative dietitian and founder of Revived Roots. We are a science-based wellness company empowering people just like yourself with personalized nutrition and lifestyle tools so that you can live the most healthy and meaningful life possible. So today's topic, we are going to go through my protocol for preventing and or treating as an adjuvant to conventional therapy COVID-19. So I've had this conversation many a times with clients. I've never really done anything publicly, so here we go. I will say first and foremost that the reason why I am bringing this up is I was acutely exposed to COVID on Sunday evening. My landmate was exposed the week prior, put herself into quarantine, had a negative at-home outcome, and then she tested positive yesterday. So in between the negative and the positive, she and I were in very close proximity. We were hanging out, giving each other head rubs, cooking food, doing yoga, right? So I was definitely acutely exposed, and I would say it's appropriate that I would be infected with COVID. So at this point in time, I'm essentially putting all of my best tips and tricks into place to maybe prevent infection overall, or to just go ahead and reduce the severity of the symptoms that I might experience. So we will dive into three categories. We'll look at nutrition, lifestyle, as well as targeted supplementation and different things that you can do there. But before I go any further, I just want to say these functional approaches are entirely intended for educational purposes only, and they are not intended to treat, diagnose, or cure. Okay. So from a nutrition standpoint, we want to get the body into a state where we're optimizing the body's immune system. And the immune system resides primarily inside the gastrointestinal system. So from an integrity standpoint, think about the GI lining. That GI lining is very, very thin. It's about one cell thick or thin, however you want to look at it. And that is the barrier of the outside or the outside world to the inside world. And so if we have any compromised tissue there, lingering inflammation, degradation, or permeability taking place, then we are now vulnerable to getting more pathogens into our bloodstream, and thus a more intense response or severity of symptoms. So we want to make sure that that GI lining is nice and tight, right, first and foremost. And we also have these colonies of bacteria inside the intestines that are there to defend us as well. And this is our microbiome. So the beneficial bacteria there, they do other things besides defend us, but right now we're talking about immune systems. So we want to make sure we have a nice, strong, well-populated microbiome of beneficial bacteria, right? And we want to make sure we're feeding them and we're not providing them any toxic chemicals or foods that could harm them or otherwise sterilize the system. So some of the nutrition recommendations I would say would be, first and foremost, just balancing out your blood sugar. When we look at inflammation in the body, we really want to regulate inflammation when it comes to immune promotion. So when we look at how blood sugar can induce inflammation, it's because if we have that dysregulation of spikes and valleys, then we're going to have that dysregulation of spikes with insulin as well. And insulin is a pro-inflammatory hormone, so we don't want to have these erraticism with its synthesis. We want it to be nice and mellow. So in order to do that, you can simply consume carbohydrate foods in conjunction with proteins and or fats, as well as some fiber, and that will slow down the absorption process of sugar into the bloodstream. We also can just boost up our phytocompounds and antioxidants. So looking at your incredibly colorful fruits and vegetables, I like to focus on roots, tubers, fruits, cruciferous vegetables for the benefit of N-acetylcysteine or glutathione, which we'll talk about in a bit. Alliums, specifically garlic for quercetin. We'll go into that as well. Leafy greens, citrus fruits for vitamin C. And here we're really just trying to flood the body with nutrients that really help with the immune regulation. Also drinking bone broth. So I have a vat of bone broth going. My recommendation is about 8 to 12 ounces a day. When I'm in this mode, I'm drinking about a quart a day at a minimum. So I tend to not eat as much food. I keep it very, very simple. And I really upregulate all the foods that are incredibly therapeutic, as well as supplements to just flood my body with the nutrients it needs and to create as little resistance as possible. So bone broth is an incredibly dense source of gut healing proteins. So bringing those in that food form is very synergistic, and it can help to rebuild the tissue of the GI Very effective for protecting that immune system. You can also add, I like to blend mine with different fats. And in particular for this case, I will be blending it with a little bit of coconut oil because it does have antiviral properties. So we want to go with that. Eating fermented foods. So anything that's not cow dairy based. Currently I have different forms of sauerkraut as well as pickled carrots, and I think I have some kimchi in there as well. So anyways, fermented foods, about a quarter cup a day at a minimum. And then organ meats or organ capsules, these are really big. So I call this nature's multivitamin. And really what I'm doing with this is just flooding my body with zinc and copper and methylated Bs, all again, immune regulating vitamins and minerals. So they are incredibly dense in liver, heart, and kidneys. I do have plenty of organ meats down in my freezer, but I also have the capsules if I'm just not feeling the intake. So making sure I'm getting those in is for damn sure on my protocol. And then from a reduction point of view, really, if you are someone who eats out, you really want to reduce that, right? You don't want to have much exposure to any highly refined seed oils. Those are incredibly damaging to not only the mitochondria, but the cellular integrity. They decrease our metabolic health, and that is the #1 risk factor for severity of symptoms with COVID. So we want to make sure metabolic health is up to par. And this is something that is a lifelong recommendation, guys. Pretty much all of these are. We're trying to really hone it in right now and just kind of tie it up and be super in line with these therapies versus just doing some of them sometimes. So with this, it's completely avoiding refined sugars and processed foods. And again, those highly refined seed oils. We want to make sure those are not entering the system. So really focusing on whole, real foods at this point in time and taking anything that's processed out. And then the last one is taking raw garlic. So this one for me is a personal game changer. Anytime I'm not feeling well, I guess I've had 4 instances in 4 years where I've had a fever that I was able to break within 24 hours on each occasion. It's the only downtime I've had. So with garlic, I like to treat it as a capsule. So I will take about 1 raw garlic and chop it up. And every 90 minutes or so, I just throw it back and drink it down like a supplement. And so that's going to be really rich in quercetin, but it's also going to have very strong antiviral properties. Big fan of that one. So if you have raw garlic available, you can go ahead and start doing that. It's also something that you can do on an ongoing basis, not every day, but when you are in like a immune like intensive protocol, you can take it on a daily basis. Okay, lifestyle. So from a lifestyle perspective, I would say avoiding alcohols and substances at this point in time is definitely to your benefit. And I wouldn't make any, like, just go light on the alcohol. It's like, no, at this point in time, no alcohol, okay? This can really burden the body with additional toxins, and in turn, the nutrients that we're wanting for immune support will be dedicated to the detoxification instead. So it can deplete us of essential vitamins and minerals that we need right now for immune regulation. So no drugs, no alcohol, just set those things aside. A second thing that you can do is really establish an eating window and stick with it. So what I mean by that is saying, hey, eating window time is I want to get all of my food intake within a 10 to 12 hour period. And that way my body has adequate time to focus on healing and repair of the GI. If we have food consistently coming into the system, at what point does the body have the ability to just kind of focus its attention on healing versus digestion, right? So I encourage you to establish a window, stick to it, and then if you need to, just play with herbal teas outside that window to keep yourself like, I guess, adherent, right? Also, getting in some exercise, moderate, regular physical activity. This can really boost the immune system. It helps to increase the infection-fighting white blood cells and antibodies. It also increases circulation, detoxification, and it decreases the stress hormones. So overall reducing inflammation. If you have COVID-19 currently and you have symptoms, you want to just keep it moderate. But if you have severe symptoms, you want to just, I would say maybe do some yoga, keep it really, really simple, okay? Get quality sleep. So straight up, if there's any time where I am feeling a bit under the weather, again, I've had those 4 moments, I turn off everything. Laptop off, phone off, clients rescheduled, and I am completely alone in my space. I keep the lights down. I hydrate. I drink my bone broth. I might have on some mellow music. I'm keeping a really calm environment. And I do that because I want my body to prioritize healing. And it can only do that when it feels safe, right? So I want to put it into a safe environment, and I want to give it the tools and the resources that it needs to repair and to fight and defend my body, right? So getting quality sleep, absolutely essential. Um, Increasing water intake, of course, to help with flushing out waste products that are not serving us. So it's what's going on here? Definitely necessary for cellular and metabolic processes. Yeah, we just want to help eliminate anything like byproducts, toxic waste, get it out of the body, keep the body well hydrated so that it can function optimally. And stress mitigation. So practicing deep breathing, right? Like if the body is going to focus on healing, it must first and foremost feel safe. And so through deep breathing, that is our number one key tool, access point, whatever you want to call it. Deep conscious breathing, where it's slow, deep, and voluminous, is how we can really shut down that stress response, turn on the parasympathetic, and allow the body to focus on healing. Really fun fact, guys, is that when the body is in a stress response, especially when that stress response is chronic, this has the ability to sterilize the gut microbiome. Remember those defenders we spoke about earlier? So it can actually become sterilized just as if you had taken an antibiotic. And that's just with chronic stress exposure, or even acute stress. So want to make sure that we are keeping a very calm environment, not only externally, but also internally. And then the last one for lifestyle would be to practice safe social connection. So reduce your exposure to interactions perceived as hostile or non-supportive, and at the same time emphasize and encourage spending time with people who are very positive and very affirming to you. If you are in isolation like myself, then find ways to connect, whether it's via phone, via video, or sitting outside at a distance and just having communication. Feeling connected as a species can really regulate and boost our immune systems as well. So isolation can be very detrimental to the immune system as well as mental health. And so no matter what phase you're in, you want to make sure you're prioritizing that. And then let's see here. The last one I want to look at is just looking at some targeted support for supplements. So there's quite a few recommendations here, and I'll just kind of give you my favorites. First and foremost, I would say, actually, hold on. I just need to take some water. Sorry. Okay, here we go. So first and foremost, I would say zinc is a really important one to bring in. It has very strong antiviral properties, and so it's something that it's also a wound healer. So if there's any damaged tissue, it can help to come in and repair. So we want to make sure our zinc levels are up to par. I'm not going to give any dosage recommendations on this, but if you are a client, I'd be happy to give those to you. I will also have a full script. Actually, here's doses will come in. I will have a full script package with these in here, and I'll put a link underneath this video. So that way, if you want to buy any of the supplements that we discussed, you can go in there and do so. If you do that, it will give you the actual dosage recommendations. But here, we're just going to talk about which I would say virus-specific nutraceuticals and botanicals you can consider to be important and maybe put some attention on. So zinc would be really one of the top ones. N-acetylcysteine, which is NAC, it's a precursor for glutathione. Glutathione is that granddaddy antioxidant in the body. It's potent and it supports immune function more than any other antioxidant. So it can really help to reduce severity of symptoms, and we want to make sure we have that up to par. Foods, like I mentioned earlier, are those really bitter cruciferous foods. Those can help with NAC or glutathione, but also just taking supplementation. Really good also if you're an asthmatic, because these do help with respiratory function. So you can also see that that can play into COVID as well, as it's a respiratory virus. Vitamin D definitely enhances immune function. You've probably heard a lot about this because it is being recognized as a critical player in well, just the overall outcome of severity of symptoms, as well as more mortality with this particular virus. So making sure you have adequate vitamin D status, really to your favor. I would recommend, if you are taking it, to take it with a K to supplement to help with the increased absorption of vitamin D. Those two work synergistically together, okay? Vitamin A also very anti-inflammatory, enhances immune function, and it also supports the lining of the respiratory tract. One thing I will say is vitamin A, vitamin D, N-acetylcysteine, zinc, and some other ones we're going to talk about are also really rich in organ meats. And not only that, they are the most usable form. So organ meats are a great asset during times where you're really focused on immune upregulation. Vitamin C, of course, so this contributes to immune defense by supporting various cellular functions of the immune system. One thing too is that its highest concentration is in the adrenal glands, and so if we are in that upregulation of stress, we can burn through vitamin C very quickly. So it's nice to replenish vitamin C when the body is in that fighting mode, because it will have a little bit more of that internal stress response taking place. So vitamin C coming in can be very helpful. If you're having difficulty sleeping due to symptoms, then melatonin. I personally never take it. I don't have issues with sleeping, but for some of my clients, it has been really, really helpful if they're, dealing with COVID. I've had a couple clients with COVID, and this has helped out with them. So you can also just start with pretty small doses, and you can work it up if that's something that you need assistance with. Elderberry, this is something that I definitely keep on hand. So all these things is really fun. I have all these things on hand, which is really nice and convenient, and also just like reassuring that I've done a good job at keeping myself stocked. But elderberry is one that has been used a lot for the flu in the past. Super rich in vitamin C as well, and also a variety of antioxidants. So something that you can bring in like a tincture form in a dropper or an elderberry syrup. If you do the syrup, I'd say look at the ingredients. You want it to be made with maybe like a raw unfiltered honey and not cane sugar or anything of that nature. So that can happen. Other ones that I would really emphasize, I would say, that's not on here. Probiotics can be really helpful, of course, to help reestablish the microbiome, as well as if you're not going to do the bone broth, and bringing things in like glutamine could be really, really helpful for that as well. So that's kind of it in a nutshell, guys. Overall, I would say if you have been exposed, or if you're just wanting to generally prevent, take time for your body to, like, one, create an environment where it feels safe. Take away things that could potentially reduce your body's ability to fight, and then to go ahead and flood it with the nutrients that it needs as tools and resources, so that it can really upregulate the system. So if you guys have any comments on this, just drop them below. And again, I'll put a link from Full Script with all the recommended supplements that I personally take myself. So hope you guys are having a good one, and I'll check in soon. Cheers.